Sanbonani, Dumelang, Mkhulu Bhungane here to speak the truth, to speak the light. We are definitely here together to explore the nature of the Most High, the nature of healing, our nature of love, because all of those are products of the divine source, products of God, Thixo, Amata, the Most High source, and we here in this platform, we speak to the divine light that is within us, So I've been exposed to various religions, I've studied various religions, and I've noticed an intersection, in all of them. We can say we stand here, but then there's those points that meet and that are in full agreement. Like every culture speaks about love thy neighbor. I can speak from my Christian background and say love thy neighbor. And then in the Nguni Bantu culture, it's called Ubuntu. Umuntu ngabantu. A person is a person because of people. And that is also a form of loving your neighbor, because we are all interconnected and we are all affecting each other. Same with Tswana, they say Botu, Mbatu Bele. And that's an emphasis on community, So God is God because God is omnipotent, omnipresent, all. So omnipotent, potency, powerful, all powerful. So the difference between me and maybe what somebody else who's religious in our belief and understanding is I understand that God can exist anywhere He wants. Doesn't even need a body, doesn't even need a gender. It's an energy that's infinite, that's there all the time, and what sparks me, my healing and my nature as a healing is the fact that, I found God in a mental state of hell. I found Umvelingani. I prefer calling what we call God Umvelingani, the source, because the vibrational frequency of our languages, they really ignite something within us, and God is very generic. It's not even the Christians were calling their God. There was a name, and there can be various debates, Jehovah, Yehovah, but there was a name. God, even the devil can be regarded as a god, because it's a ranking of spiritual levels. So when I say Umvelingani, I'm talking about the source. And when we say source, no matter which angle we're coming from, we always mean that there is that point where the spark of life was created and ignited. And that spark is benevolent, that spark looks out for us, that spark is us, and this conversation is this is going to be a series of conversations, and the primary focus is love, and love is the highest vibrational frequency. Love is like the closest to the frequency of the Most High. And the more we understand love, the more we understand God, the more we understand Umvelingani, and the more we understand ourselves, and even from a Zulu Christian background, you can even see when you pray, praying is called ukuthandaza. Uthando is love. So even in our element of connection with God, our people understood tandaza. When we're connecting with the love frequency or an element of love, we're connecting to the Most High, divine source. So now, I had written a book called The Art of the Love Vibration, and it's still out. Orders are still up, but it's all of it is just me doing my spiritual work, what is required of me, as a healer, and I'll limit it to that title. That'll be the most limiting title I can give it, because being a healer is not a job description. I am not particularly a sangoma, I am just a person who works as a vessel of the Most High, and how God wants me to show up for people, which usually comes in the form of mentorship, leadership, guidance, kingship, community building, and the word. See, right now we're engaging with God's gift of the word through me right now. And the word that I need to give you is understanding love. And not in the romantic sense, but in the spiritual frequency sense, And the first and very important discussion, because even I'm going through it now, and everything I go through is there for God to educate me so that I can relay the message. And devoting yourself to love in this way it's not an easy thing, because you've also acknowledged that you live beyond the flesh and you cannot live on bread alone. Speaking of living on bread alone, we're going to start. Imagine the human body, and now when we're talking about the levels of love, we're talking about where the energy starts in a human being and where it ends. So it starts, like your grounding, your feet, your foundation is where it starts, and it rises and it goes to your creative impulses, your courage, your love, your ability to vocalize yourself, and your ability to see with the mind's eye, to see with your imagination, or to imagine, because sometimes what I don't like about the word imagine when it comes to the mind's eye. It's almost saying you are seeing something that's not real, whereas you are just seeing. And sometimes it's not real, sometimes it is real and it just hasn't happened yet. Sometimes you are creating it by seeing it, and that is the beginning of it existing, So I know all thoughts start with the brain, but before you could use your brain, even when you were a baby, you were really learning the basics and the fundamentals, like walking. So we start with the feet, we start with your grounding. So the first level of love, on one part you can call it the root chakra, but we'll just call it survival. How do you find love in survival? Where is love's place in survival? Because that's also, a lot of people like to say, love doesn't pay the bills. But sex doesn't pay the bills either, but you'll gladly have it, right? You'll even pay for it. Food doesn't pay the bills, but you need to engage with it because that's the whole point that you're making money for. So you see my point is that love is the point. Love is the point. We do all these things, we work, they can try and lead us away from that and try and make us live for, the flesh, but it's not gonna be enough. And if it was enough, then greed wouldn't be such a thing now, wouldn't, contentment wouldn't be so elusive. But yeah, what is survival mode? Survival mode is like living off of bread alone. Jesus was the one who said man can't live on bread alone because man is a spirit. And that was the potency of Jesus' message, from my understanding, is the sacrificing of the flesh to live eternally as a spirit, and now you need to understand that you're a spirit and that the things you do have an effect on your frequency. And if your frequency is too low, you die, But if your frequency is high enough, even the physical isn't the limitation of your existence. So you need to continue to feed your spirit so you can find true bliss, Heaven is the high frequency that, I think we can definitely even experience parts of heaven, even here on earth, when you align your frequency high enough, when you get in nature, when you feed yourself healthy food, when you feed yourself with community, when you feed yourself with giving and being of service, because that makes you feel purposeful, But when you live off of bread alone, it creates a scarcity complex, which also begets, and continues to create the poverty that you can be experiencing. It creates a lack of imagination, and it also, fuels new and old demons, And when I say demons, I mean those things that we use to contribute to our energy that are harmful to us and our environment and the people around us, So if man can't live on bread alone, and man is spirit, man is consciousness, human, umuntu, is consciousness and divine consciousness, and every breath we have, is our life force. The things that keep us breathing are not only the flesh, otherwise people wouldn't have depression, people wouldn't follow all these self-destructive things if eating was enough, but yeah, so I think the greatest challenge now is that we need to be able to coexist with each other, and the biggest challenge is living in survival mode means you prioritize selfishness and ego, and your selfishness is there to protect your basic needs, and your ego is there to protect your emotions and this personality that you've developed about yourself, this identity. And now the problem with selfishness is that umuntu ngabantu, we all codepend on each other. We are interdependent. Codependent is when we have an unhealthy lack of independence, and we are always, in order for us to stand, we need to lean on someone else, and you should be able to stand on your own. You should be able to lift up others, and when you fall, you should create a community that will help you get back up again. But depending on anything other than the spirit is always going to be the sin. And when I say sin, and from my understanding of sin, it's just things that lower your vibrational frequency. They cast a darkness over umoya wako, your air, your spirit, the way you breathe. You're not breathing easy anymore because you're carrying a lot of the weight of your actions and your choices, So it's really about addressing the root chakra, about addressing grounding and identity. And I think some of the best stories also come from people understanding that we survive together. And whether we are experiencing mass poverty, or a great loss that puts us only in survival mode, it's usually our ability to come together and collaborate for shared values, shared vision, and shared principles. That is when we actually overcome survival mode. But now when you're overcome by selfishness and ego, you're not addressing the truth, because the truth might affect how you feel, and you're not being considerate of others because you feel like there's only so much consideration that can go around, and so you only want to consider yourself. That's a very dangerous place to be, because I can tell you my spiritual journey started with depression, and that depression was sparked by many things. Feeling out of place in the world, especially as a creative, because I was there at the foundation of creative careers when South Africa didn't really even have space for us, to really create a life for ourselves. It was always these up and down stories of people seeing the light and the shine and then descending, and there was no sense of stability. It wasn't a career, it was a gig, it was a moment. So, there's fear that you get from your family, especially as an African person who has been, displaced, and they took all your resources. So now you live in a culture that's constantly living in survival mode. And now when you're an artist, art doesn't necessarily translate to survival, it's seen as a luxury, but now imagine now that's something that you're called to do. That's all you have to be. So now you find yourself, feeling depressed because you feel displaced. You find yourself in relationships that echo the instabilities of your background, that trigger some of the wounds that you have left unhealed because you're a child, So some of the things that have affected you for long, you feel like time will heal that wound, and it doesn't, and then things build up and you feel yourself not wanting to be here anymore. You don't want to be on earth anymore. You don't feel like it has a place for you. It's not making space for you. You're an African spiritually gifted, creative. There is war on you on different fronts. Maybe probably mind, body, spiritual war against you. And now you're just learning the equipment that you need to succeed in this great journey. And you're learning that the parties, the clout, the status, the friends are all distractions in this game of life that are trying to give you a temporary high and leave you on the ground with withdrawals after you've rode that high, So I think where it really started was acknowledging my purpose, I'm an artist, and I think there was a point where I was like at UNISA, and you finish your assignments and you have nothing to do all day, Also, the suburbs can be very boring, and when you're broke, so luckily boredom gives you time to really reflect and find clarity and be like, what, I said that I'm depressed because I'm not expressing my gift. I was always partying and distracting myself in my youth because there wasn't, because I didn't study something that is more creatively inclined. I studied something more corporate. Now there's this vacuum because you haven't been exercising your purpose, And at that moment, a eureka happened where it's like, I'm home all the time. And I'm done distracting myself with all the stuff that I'm doing with my friends. Let me just actually fully lock in and live into my purpose. And I wrote a story called Moon, My Only Option Now. And it was really retelling, almost a form of self-therapy, retelling the story of my experiences mixed with other people's experiences, really captivating. I think people weren't even talking about mental health then, but it was a story fueled by mental health and the triggers along the way, and the triggers towards you still trying to get to your dream and actualizing yourself. So I done that, and then I also founded a creative organization that served as a platform for other artists trying to find their way. And the whole goal was to create a career path for artists, create a company that sort of innovates the industry of the arts. It had many different purposes, but that was one of them. And my ancestors' purpose within that journey was really to initiate me and really to strengthen me from the root, because now I'm on a journey of self-discovery. The more you tap into yourself, like I was just tapping into myself as an artist. And the more I'm tapping into myself, I'm learning about me. I'm learning about my spiritual inclinations, my internal system. I'm learning about my people's history. I'm learning about the meaning of my name, my surname. That's where you can really even start. What is the meaning of Isthakazelo? The praise song. Who are you? And I'm cutting through a lot of different, chapters. Some because I don't want to speak too long, and others because it's personal. But the point was, on a foundational level, I was unstable because I didn't know who I am outside of my current incarnation. I didn't know where I came from other than the location, And now, what you need to understand is when you have a set of values and a set of principles that you live for, from your survival point, you understand, what am I surviving for? What am I surviving? Other than eating and consuming, because now the trap that our generation is falling into is that we've let consumption become our new religion, and that has robbed us of our inherent gift to contribute. You are inherently valuable. You inherently have value, and you are here to activate that value and contribute. So love is also service, and love in service will lead to your survival, because that's been my story and the story of every great person I've ever read about. It's once they found that service that they love giving society, be it being a writer, be it being a motivator, be it being a mentor, be it being a teacher, but their way of giving back to society becomes their fuel for their lives and allows you to transcend that survival mode but still feed that sense of survival. So you need to activate your gift. You need to, and listen, Martin Luther King said that even a street sweeper can hold significance, and you need to, if you're a street sweeper, you need to sweep the street the same way Picasso would paint a painting. You need to do it with that level of zeal and that level of ingenuity, because that's your contribution. Because at the end of the day, cleanliness is next to godliness, and we can't be godly in the midst of filth. So that is also the respect we need to be giving a cleaner, for instance, because even if you think you're prestigious, you wouldn't be prestigious living in filth. So these people who come here and clean, are still serving a very divine purpose. So it's not about how big the title is, or when we talk about gift, then now you're parting the Red Sea in order for you to be special or significant. Your gift is here to make life better. This is a challenge. Life is a challenge. It's not roses and jay. There are challenges in this life, but they are there to activate your light, because your light is your gift, and the gift you give to the world, So yeah, from that survival point of view, if you lead with purpose, it can unlock you and unlock a certain discipline that lets your love transcend the survival mode. Because even with families that need to keep themselves together in these trying times, when you understand that there are certain values and principles that we all live for, we are all honest people who value the Most High, who value cleanliness, who value kindness. When a family, when a community is led by values like that, they also understand that they transcend the selfishness by understanding that if I keep him alive, then I keep truth alive. If I keep him alive, then I keep justice alive. And those are the things I value. And then you guys are keeping each other alive. That's where even that sense of group identity can come from with humans, because they stand for something together. And that's what helps us transcend the limitations of being on survival mode, So more than anything, this can be our first conversation on love in survival mode. I think even myself, I'm growing in this conversation, but I feel like we've sparked something beautiful. I feel like in these challenging times these challenging financial times, humans need to come together at a level unprecedented, but now we're being distracted with vanity, and everybody wants to be. I can just tell you that it's not nice enjoying your money alone. It's not nice enjoying your abundance alone. You'll have a full stomach and be lonely. And I hate to break it to you if you're a selfish person, but psychologically you need other people. As in for your psychological health, for you to be okay. That's why when jails punish people, they put them in solitary confinement. It's not the darkness that's also killing you, it's the fact that you're alone. And yes, different people have different capacities to have that alone, but all humans want community. So we can overcome love in survival mode by forming community with people we have shared values and principles with. Togoza, amen. Thank you so much for engaging.